than 30 million phones. In the years following, sales continued to fall rapidly, and its stock hit a meteoric descent.
I think we saw, as we were getting closer to our BlackBerry 10 launch and seeing the headway that Apple and Android were making in this space. So I'd say around that time frame is when I think the company realized that, yeah, we would need to make some significant changes.
BlackBerry desperately tried to stay afloat by flooding the market with products. In the same time period it took Apple to release 4 iPhones, BlackBerry released over 30 unique devices. It made an effort to keep up with competition by See, this pivotal shift Chen is referencing was largely dependent on a few key acquisitions that BlackBerry had made, one of which being QNX in 2010, the operating system that was later integrated into BlackBerry devices.
And this was viewed as, one of the silver bullets that BlackBerry needed for its portfolio moving forward. One thing we did was we took out the security software which used to be designed for the operating system of the new phone, and moved that back into the auto.
The others being the $1.4 billion acquisition of Silence, a software firm, and the $425 million acquisition of Good Technology, a device management software company. These moves helped BlackBerry the future of the company in 2016, these acquisitions quickly became central to its business model.
Currently, BlackBerry has 2 main business units, a cybersecurity business unit and an IoT business unit.
These are 2 fast-growing markets. I would like to think of BlackBerry as a company that can actually grow if they play their cards right.
The main focus within the IoT business unit is automotive, and BlackBerry IoT business unit features the QNX operating system, which is iconic and the de facto standard in automotive.
So the QNX technology that we have in this vehicle, before we even integrated with any of our additional sensors, this is running ports. So the infotainment is being used in the vehicle, and this is prevalent in quite a few of the Ford vehicles.
We now have the lion's share of embedded software in most of the cars. So this is really as a offshoot of the result of the strategy shift in 2016, which is where we went from phone to non-phone.
Software is in 215 million cars. It could be powering your car's entertainment system or securing its connected driver assist features.
So what we have here is the MKZ concept vehicle. We use this for autonomous drive demonstrations. We have integrated a lot of very complex
out of these regulated industries and to capture market share in the broad market, the mass market opportunity.
BlackBerry has recently achieved more revenue from the cybersecurity side of its business, but analysts are more confident in the growth potential of the automotive IoT sector.
I think that the company can reach likely a lower peak than we've seen in the past, but a more sustainable growth trajectory and potentially a more profitable future as well on a margin percentage basis.
While it was a major shift to go from manufacturing cell phones to cybersecurity and software, it was also a shift that made sense for BlackBerry.
Even when they used to be a smartphone manufacturer, they always, BlackBerry had a good name, a good recognition among consumers for a company that prioritized security features. So BlackBerry is not new to offering high-grade, high-quality security features.
Its reputation for being secure was easily transferable to part of its new enterprise in the automotive industry. Keeping the Internet of Things and cars safe from cyber attacks is increasingly important as cars become more autonomous.
Security researchers have hacked into vehicles and proven that they could take over control of the vehicle. And I do think that there's the potential for payment systems to be compromised or personal information to be taken. And when you think of a car, it's more like, 10 plus computers than one computer.
Apple is about 20% of Qualcomm's revenue today, so it's pretty sizable.
So now, Qualcomm is focused on diversification. It has a new partnership with cloud computing providers and just expanded its auto offerings into motorcycles and new in-vehicle generative AI capabilities.
We've taken all these technologies that we built and then we apply it not just to mobile phones, but to VR headsets, to AR headsets, to computing, to automotive.
CNBC went to Qualcomm's headquarters in San Diego to see its latest tech firsthand and asked top executives and analysts what's next for the longtime wireless ruler as Apple develops its own silicon, smartphone chip sales falter, and generative AI pushes GPU companies like NVIDIA to the front of the pack. In 1985, 7 colleagues from a tech startup called Linkabit met in the home of Irwin Jacobs in San Diego, where they thought up the idea for Qualcomm, short for Quality Communications. Jacobs would remain at the helm for 20 years.
Irwin is like a legend. It was his vision to build all this.
In 1989, it made a bold move away from the accepted telecommunications standards at the time, placing the first phone call using code division multiple access. With CDMA, several transmitters send information simultaneously over a single communication channel. It became the foundation for 3G, 4G, and 5G today.
It was trying to solve that problem, which is try to get enough capacity so everybody in the world can have a cell phone.
Nobody believed them. Nobody thought that CDMA would work. Not only did they make CDMA work, but then they went on and made the rest of mobile work better.
For a short time, Qualcomm made its own cell phones, releasing the first commercial CDMA
And that creates revenue streams from companies like Apple, from other OEMs, that the company makes even if their chipsets aren't being specifically used in a device. And it's probably one of the most controversial parts of the Qualcomm business.
In 2017, it faced 2 major lawsuits, one from the Federal Trade Commission over unfair patent licensing practices due to its monopoly position in wireless chips. In 2020, Qualcomm ultimately prevailed. The other lawsuit came from Apple, which sued Qualcomm for roughly $1 billion for charging royalties for technologies Apple said Qualcomm had nothing to do with. Months later, Qualcomm sued Apple for patent infringement. 2 years later, a settlement brought an end to all legal action between the companies. Also in 2017, Qualcomm faced a $117 billion hostile takeover attempt from Singapore-based chip giant Broadcom. The deal was blocked by then-President Donald Trump, citing national security concerns.
There was a period of time for 4 or 5 years where it was just like one thing after the other. It was just like whack-a-mole. It was insane. And effectively on all the legal stuff, they prevailed on everything.
Still, such a big focus on licensing the tech behind the curtain has created a separate issue around public awareness.
The fact that people don't know it's Qualcomm often is what is the hindrance. You don't know when you buy that GM or that BMW that it's powered by Qualcomm. You don't know when you buy that Samsung device that it's powered by Qualcomm, which I think is often its friction in terms of investors and why it's valued at often a much lower level than some of its peers like Nvidia, Apple, and others that are building silicon.
But today, Qualcomm says licensing has become a smaller portion of revenue, while its semiconductor business is growing. And those chips get their start here, at a lab in San Diego, where we got a behind-the-scenes look.
Before we actually started any manufacturing, we put it all together on one, what's called emulation platform. So it actually takes 3 of these. Each of these is massive, 100 pounds. So 300 pounds down to what's ultimately going to be a device that looks like this.
Like all fabless chip companies, Qualcomm then sends its carefully crafted designs off to be manufactured at multi-billion-dollar chip fabrication plants, also known as fabs or foundries, largely in Asia.
TSMC in Taiwan and Samsung in Korea and many others, we're always the number 1 or number 2 customers, all of those foundries given our scale.
But mounting tensions with China, and between China and Taiwan, have raised concerns about how much all major chip designers rely on chipmakers in Asia. That's why Taiwan Semiconductor, Samsung, Intel, and others are now building huge advanced fabs in the US to reshore manufacturing with incentives from the $52 billion CHIPS Act, although some of those plans have already hit delays. Will you make any Qualcomm chips at the new plants coming the TSMC plant in Arizona, for instance.
We are ready, if I'm not mistaken, we're already committed to around close to half of the capacity is going to be for Qualcomm products. And we're the largest customer of Samsung current manufacturer facilities in Austin, Texas.
Once Qualcomm gets its chips back from the fab where they're manufactured, it tests them using mock-up devices to mimic the smartphones where they'll eventually end up.
To make sure that the final system is going to work exactly as we intended, to write the final software that we're going to hand off to our customers.
When it comes to these core systems on a chip, SoCs, inside smartphones, Qualcomm really only has a couple competitors.
We have MediaTek, based out of Taiwan, a very strong competitor. We have Exynos team within the overall Samsung corporation. And then more broadly, we think of Apple as our competition.
Apple has indeed made its own A-series of processors for its iPhones and iPads since 2010. But inside every iPhone is also a Qualcomm modem.
And that's the part that connects to the cellular network, called a modem or baseband. It's what makes a mobile phone truly mobile. And those are very difficult to design. Today, there's really only 3 companies that make them at scale, and that's Qualcomm, MediaTek, and Tsinghua Unisoc from China.
When its 2-year legal battle with Qualcomm came to a close in 2019, Apple bought Intel's 5G modem business in a move to develop its own cellular modem.
Apple's made it very clear that they want to get rid of Qualcomm entirely and go to their own modem. Unclear if they can pull that off, when they will be able to do it. It's very different than everything else Apple silicon has built.
We have a relationship with Apple for the iPhone that is launching in 23 as well, but we have no plans for that relationship in any direction in 24. We don't have visibility whether we're going to be in the iPhone 24 or not.
Qualcomm has been open with investors that its deal to supply Apple with chips for the iPhone won't last forever.
Apple is actually a smaller portion of our business. Early on in the decades, we diversified very broadly. So within smartphone, most of our revenue, most of what we do actually is not Apple, but really is working with our strong partners like Samsung and other handset vendors.
There is no doubt that people that are invested in Qualcomm would like to see the company continue to provide technology to Apple. Having said that, this was part of the reason the company became so aggressive in its diversification efforts, was to make sure that it never became overly beholden to any one company, including Apple, which we've seen from this come successful entree into automotive.
And Apple isn't the only one turning away from Qualcomm silicon. Chinese smartphone maker Huawei currently uses Qualcomm's 4G chips in all its high-end phones. But it'll soon switch to 5G, turning to China-made chips because of export controls on U.S. companies providing advanced tech to China. Meanwhile, smartphones as a whole are facing an industry-wide downturn. Shipments are on track to hit their lowest point in a decade.
We had a couple of really good years during the pandemic when everyone was buying new phones, upgrading. And now we've entered the downturn, so simply there's just less demand. Right? And at some point that will turn around, that will improve.
In August, Qualcomm reported weaker than anticipated revenue for Q3, and it's planning another round of layoffs after letting go of 415 people in June. It employs around 51,000 people.
The macroeconomics, I think, is not unique to Qualcomm. A lot of companies have been right-sizing their business. We're no different than the rest of our peers.
With uncertainty in the smartphone market, Qualcomm has shifted much of its focus to chips for other smart devices, chief among them, cars.
So that's our brightest spot in our Qualcomm differentiation strategy. In a period of, let's say, 3 to 4 years, we have significantly increased our presence. We started in automotive a long time ago, but it was a very small business.
That's something that's taking time, but these design wins are indicative of a future. They do create more predictability in revenue, and the company is seeing more and more of the world's largest automakers select its technology for at least part of their connected automotive stack.
Qualcomm's digital chassis powers cloud-connected video and audio, advanced driver assistance systems, and things like face recognition for automatic doors. It's in cars like the new Cadillac Escalade IQ and models from BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Stellantis, Hyundai, General Motors, JLR, and Sony Honda Mobility.
The interior of our cars are starting to look a lot more like our other consumer electronic devices, our phones and our laptops. And then on top of that, the automakers are starting to tie a lot of all those thousands of discrete chips together into sort of more complex systems to add assisted driving and infotainment, digital cockpit. The problem is the auto market moves very slowly relative to cell phone.
Qualcomm is also diversifying into the connectivity of things, like virtual or augmented reality headsets.
This is our AR2 Gen 1. So this chip is the foundational technology at the center of AR glasses.
We're the partner of choice of Meta. We have been working with Microsoft, we've been working with Google and Samsung. So we believe there's going to be an opportunity. It's hard to time it. When everybody's going to buy their glasses, but we know that that's going to be the next computing platform for sure.
Well, I think their chipsets in AR and VR will become important because Apple will make this product commercial. But I do think once Apple goes mainstream, the demand will flow down, just like AirPods. There will be 1,000 other wearables.
And Qualcomm is also trying to break into the competitive world of central processing units for PCs, taking on server giants like Intel and AMD. In 2021, Qualcomm bought CPU startup Nuvia for $1.4 billion, although ARM sued Qualcomm in 2022, saying it only licensed its architecture to Nuvia, not its new owner. Still, Qualcomm says its ARM-based processors will be in PCs by 2024.
I'm kind of tempted to dismiss that as something that just it's going to be too hard to crack. But I think with AI and generative AI, if that becomes a feature that consumers really want in their laptops, I think Qualcomm actually has a really good solution. And so maybe this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Qualcomm to break into the PC market.
Qualcomm's newest announcements do show a big new focus on enabling devices for generative AI, even when they're in airplane mode.
And we talk often about this hybrid AI. You're going to run things on the device because sometimes the device has things in real time from you, or you can give the cloud a head start. But at the end of the day, I think the power combining the cloud with the device is very big.
With NVIDIA's incredible performance since ChatGPT came out in November, the big push toward AI is no surprise. But Aman says it's been in the works far longer.
We had foresight to see that AI will become very significant about 10 years ago. So over a decade, we've been developing capabilities for you to be able to run AI as pervasive as everything else you run on your phone.
In May, Microsoft announced plans for offline AI models that will run on Qualcomm's Snapdragon processors. And in July, Meta announced its ChatGPT competitor Llama 2 will run on Qualcomm chips on phones and PCs in 2024.
The company's biggest opportunity is to figure out what are those AI applications, whether it's tied to augmented reality, whether it's tied to intelligent vehicles, whether it's tied to next generation gaming, whether it's tied to productivity tools and apps. Its ability to put chipsets into these devices that can handle and process those different workloads, and of course, being able to monetize that.
So far, though, large language models have run off server farms filled with NVIDIA GPUs that can handle their huge computational and data needs. For now, the business of on-device AI is unproven.
Is Qualcomm going to be able to upsell a premium for each one of its licensees and each one of its chipsets for having these advanced AI capabilities? I think that particular answer will be the biggest determinant in just how successful Qualcomm can be in AI.
But even with uncertainty around diversifying use cases for Qualcomm's tech, analysts say the company's long-term outlook remains stable.
More and more things are going to have chips in them. There's more and more things here. It's going to take forever, but it will happen. Cars will be the most visible example of that. There will be machines, and light posts, and power tools, and Coke cans. All those things will eventually get connected, and Qualcomm can participate in that growth pretty nicely.
The numbers need to catch up in some areas. Longer term, though, it's hard to bet against a company that provides the technology that's in just about every handset and every